of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, which in the orchestral version sets to music a poem by Schiller. And I'd like to read the last stanza of that poem, which is the Ode to Joy. Be embraced, millions, this kiss to all the world. Brothers, above the starry canopy, there must dwell a loving Father. Are you collapsing, millions? Do you sense the Creator, world? Seek him above the starry canopy. Above stars must he dwell. It's a good selection for tonight because Hegel is a thinker committed to the possibilities and the predicaments that we find ourselves in as moderns, trying to be free. And there's great cause for joy in this modern world, but of course there's a lot of sorrow in it too. And Hegel's great project is to think through the conditions for liberty, for being free. And that's an entree to admittedly, a very complex text. As always, Hegel is a very difficult author to read. We need not pretend otherwise. He's turgid, but if we get a feel for the system, it'll help us understand what he's doing. And more importantly, probably than that, for our purposes, is to get a very vital sense of the issues that he's grappling with. And again, that issue above all is freedom. The Elements of the Philosophy of Right was the first book that Hegel published when he attained to the professorship at the University of Berlin, the chair of philosophy, which had only been occupied by Fichte before him, transitioning from the immense achievement of Kant. And then we get to Hegel. These are, again, the two great thinkers of the modern world, I believe, anyway. The Philosophy of Right is an expansion on this particular part of Hegel's system, which is comprehensive. Hegel is the last great system builder in the grand style. He commented on every department of reality. And while he was at his first university position, which was at professorship at Heidelberg in the previous 2 years, he had published the Encyclopedia of the Philosophical Sciences, which covers all this ground. Under objective spirit, he treats the questions of political philosophy, which are expanded in this book on the philosophy of right. And I would like to write a few things on the board and try to describe them for those who aren't seeing it. In the philosophy of right, there are three main sections. They're in the questions because really there's no way to make it through the reading without noting this. But I'll put the German. Recht, R-E-C-H-T, is the first section on right. The second section is Moralität, morality. And then the third section is Sittlichkeit, which is the ethical life of community. Hegel loves threes. You find threes everywhere in Hegel. And under Sittlichkeit, the ethical substance, you find the three realms of family, civil society, and the state, the Rechtsstaat. So that's kind of a little bit of background. We'll go through the questions. We do want your feedback as far as we hope you make use of the videos that are recorded. I know it's sometimes that with a project like this, one might focus on just the event, but I think there's something very nice to have the intro in your mind as you're working through the reading. But let us know how that works. And the other thing is we really want to emphasize getting new voices in there. We love all of our conversation partners, but we definitely want to hear, if you're shy at all, we would like you to take seriously how much we want to hear from you. It's something that is a very good atmosphere to try out ideas. Okay, yes, as Danilo notes, students do get a preference in the question queue, and so please do jump in there. It's easier for you to engage the earlier you get into the conversation. So there's that. Okay, the questions will spark a lot of other things that we might need to have in hand while we're doing the discussion. So question one, in Elements of the Philosophy of Right, Hegel explores the question of freedom, treating its development in three great spheres: abstract right, Recht, where freedom is mere freedom from constraint so that one may satisfy natural impulses. And in his terminology, that's related to personhood. That's everybody uses these words differently. He uses personality here. And then number two, the second sphere, morality. Morality, this is the sphere of the subject, where freedom is freedom to follow one's conscience and doing one's rational duty. Those of you who know the philosophical kind of milieu know that this is Kant, but we don't have to put a name on it. There's this great essay by Isaiah Berlin. It's classic on the what's the name of the thing? Anyway, I'll think about the essay's title, but it describes the two forms of liberty: the negative liberty, and this is useful. It's not just being able to cite some guy's name. It's when we think about what it means to be free, there's one obvious way to cash that out and say, I'm free when I'm able to do whatever I want. And that's what Berlin calls negative liberty, to be unconstrained in whatever choices I want to make. Now, what that leaves out, of course, is that there's no interrogation of where my desires upon which I am making those choices come from. And if you want to look deeper and say, well, maybe those desires aren't truly mine. Maybe I was given a social script. Maybe I go to college because this is what everybody expected, or I do this job because this is the career path that was put upon me. And then if you think deeply about that, then it might raise the question, well, am I free when I took all of those free steps to achieve this goal? So that's the question that lies beyond negative liberty, which is there something more to freedom? And part of what Kant wants to put into the conversation is, well, if I'm determined if I do what I do out of some kind of compulsion, I'm hungry, so I'm going to eat as much as I want without any regard to health, because I'm free. I can do whatever I want in terms of my diet. Kant will say our freedom is really in our ability to put aside our deep drives, our impulses, and to act according to reason, act according to what is rational. And so Hegel will say, well, that really is an advance beyond the operation of choice based on our given drives. Now I'm doing things according to duty and according to my sense of duty as I've thought it through and thought, well, this is the kind of thing that a reasonable person does. But Hegel says, beyond those two spheres, though, of Recht and morality, there must be something else. And that he adds this third level of ethical life, of Sittlichkeit, where freedom becomes embodied in the concrete patterns of a community, customs. Hegel's great criticism of the French Revolution, even though he was an enthusiast of the event, his criticism of it, though, was that it was too formal. There was too much of the negative freedom or the Kantian freedom, too much of I negate what's not me and therefore assert myself. But a positive view of liberty would be something where I am determining myself in relation to the whole of reality, the whole system of the world. And for Hegel, that means not only not throwing away the negative liberty, but saying, I'm only truly free when I'm able to make unconstrained choices within the context of a community with given roles and meanings, something that's objective and that's not just something that I'm overcoming. And so in our current parlance, he's trying to be both a liberal and a communitarian, both. So that's what Hegel's trying to do. Our selection at the end of the last two sentences of the first question, our selection gives an overview of that third part on ethical life. Does it make sense to speak of the flowering of freedom when it is embedded in customary ways of living? And it's a paradox, of course, to say you're free when you're following customs. What does that mean? Could it make sense? Question 2, within the realm of ethical life, Sittlichkeit, Hegel identifies 3 main levels: family, civil society, and the constitutional regime or state. Under family, Hegel considers the education of children, but education is a theme throughout our selection. What does education accomplish in the human person? when Anne Connectus, who founded this program, made these selections, she did a very nice job of pulling out this theme of education, and it's worth pursuing that question. Number 3, civil society is said many ways. Okay, I'll say something here. That word we mostly know from, I don't want to name drop, but there's this great thinker, Tocqueville, who wrote a book on America called Democracy in America. And he talks about civil society as that realm of the voluntary associations, our church groups, our soccer clubs, our civic associations. This is what helps keep us from floating apart as individual atoms. It binds us together. Well, that's not what Hegel's doing here. That's the kind of civil society we usually think of. Hegel here is talking about the free market and bureaucratic administration. That's his version of bürgerliche Gesellschaft is the German. How does this realm mediate between family life and the life of the citizen? This is one of the first times that in a full dress political philosophy, the new market economy is being theorized. So it really is worth paying attention to what he does there. Number 4, some kind of republicanism is at work in Hegel's vision of the state, which is the culmination of mind or spirit. Geist is the word there in his system. How well does his vision balance liberalism and conservatism, individuality and collectivity? I don't want to go too long into this point about Geist, but it really is important for understanding what he's doing. Geist, for Hegel, all of reality is fundamentally spirit or mind, and it's being realized in nature and in our consciousness. And what we're supposed to come to see is where we need to see in the customs of our people, in the rhythms of nature. We need to see something that's actually close to us. It's the same spirit as we are. All right, I think that hopefully will be enough to make some sense of a very, very difficult text. But the main thing is in our conversation to pursue those big questions. What is freedom above all?